someone wrote it on one of the pages that they said, if you can really torture yourself. I shouldn't be attached. I shouldn't be attached. What's wrong with me? I've been here for so long and I'm still attached. And I can tell you, if you ask for acceptance, if you pray to accept that you are attached, then it's no problem. Then you're like, all right, you know what? I'm totally attached. I'm totally fighting this process. I'm totally, enmeshed with what the outcome is going to be. Then you just send yourself acceptance about that. And I'll tell you a funny thing with that. It happened in the money course when I did that last year, that there were people taking that course who were writing in things about, I'm so attached to how much money I'm going to make from this. And, I need to make X, Y, and Z. And if I don't make it, then it won't be working. And I kept saying, you can give yourself blessings and you can say, all right, I accept the fact that I'm attached. Let it be okay that I'm attached. I'm not going to beat myself up for that. And at the same time, let me offer the taking of this course to the highest, that regardless of what the fruit is, something important is happening because I'm finally learning how to hand my finances to the divine. And whether that shows up with an extra $5,000 in my account or not, I'm still learning how to do that, and that is valuable. And I found with so many of the people who wrote in with that question, once they gave themselves permission to be attached, they became a lot less attached. And then they actually started finding that things were changing in their finances. It's really the most paradoxical game. It's like when you're attached to the outcome, it blocks the outcome. When you're kind of saying, let this unfold the way it needs to, there's all kinds of space. And at the same time, if you are stuck wherever you're stuck, if you can turn to that and go, that's perfect. That's a perfect place to be stuck. Like, it's fine. Like you bless the stuckness rather than that, spiritual, what's the word, like a beating that says, oh, you still shouldn't be stuck. You should be moving on by now. It's like, no. If you're stuck, then you can bless that. That's okay. Maybe being stuck right where you are is the perfect spot. Like when that gets blessed, I don't know, something else happens. And I want to tell you one more thing with that, and then we'll move on, which is, I guess it was in 2011, for me, things had hit this spot where I was, clearly I was writing about offering, I was writing about surrender, but I was still at that very much really deep in the level 2. Like at level 2, you want that payoff. How do you want it? So there I was in 2011, and I'm doing this work, and I'm starting to write about it. I pulled together, OO had just been pulled together, and at that point, I remember that year very well. It was like my relationship broke up. My mother got lung cancer and began her decline. I was still giving readings, and I was completely exhausted, and all I wanted in my whole being was to quit, but the things were just not pulling together to be able to quit. And so it was almost like the more I was at that level 2 offering, where I was giving it all to God mentally and yet clinging like the dickens to wanting my payoff, the crazier things got and the more agonizing they got. And then something happened, and I really don't know what piece of the puzzle did it, but at some point in 2011, I just started to let go. Because if you feel like you can't take the pain anymore, the pain is often coming from holding on so tightly to what you think should be happening. It's the pain is so often the resistance to the reality. And all I remember is I looked at the relationship that had now turned to dust. And I looked at, my mom, who had been my best friend for 50 years, who was, getting ready to transition. And I looked at all these readings that I didn't know that I would ever be free of. That no matter how I prayed about it, it just wasn't shifting to a different life. And so I remember I really went to the divine and said, your plan, not mine. Your plan, not mine, and give me some way to begin to accept this, that this is all exactly where it needs to be. And I don't know if you know this poem, but I don't have it in front of me, but you can Google it. This woman wrote this great poem. I believe it's called She Just Let Go. And if somebody wants to Google it and put it on the Facebook forum page, it's a fabulous poem. And it's really what happened to me and what can happen for anybody here. It's the difference when you're thinking about letting go, but you're still looking for a payoff, and then you let go. They're two really different things. And some part of it just became, it's give me the grace to be able to accept this the way it is. And all I can tell you is if you are an old soul, which you've heard me say this before, I really believe you kind of have to be if you're hanging out here. Just would not be interesting to you otherwise. If you're an old soul, often the external changes simply don't come until you can look at whatever is and say, I surrender to this. Let this be. If there's actions for me to take, great. Show me the actions. It's not passivity. But in the meantime, let me bless this. Let me say yes to this. Let me accept this in the moment. That's the old soul ticket. And then the change comes because the soul is learning how to harmonize with a greater reality. So I had to even get to this place of saying, you know what? If these readings kill me, because by then I was so exhausted, I never wanted to give another one. If these readings kill me, so be it. Then this is your plan, that I will surrender to these because I've tried everything. Definitely wasn't passivity. I tried everything to quit and I couldn't. And then the changes just started to roll in and roll in and roll in over the last 7 years. And they all came out of that She Just Let Go, that poem, that doing it. So I'm not pretending that it just comes in one sweep, but I remember that year because it's when I stopped waiting for the payoff, whatever the ego thought it was going to be. So, all right, that is what I wanted to talk about. And I guess Thomas Merton wanted to talk about it too. So there you go. I think there was a line on one of the beautiful JPEGs that Crystalline makes where it said something about how offering isn't a strategy to get what the mind wants. Offering is a way to call in the highest plan and really let that unfold and get out of the way. And sometimes part of that highest plan is to get to that spot of utter surrender, because then the soul finally, maybe for the first time in countless incarnations, says, thy will be done. Finally say, it's just not, the soul is not going to say thy will be done when everything's rocking and rolling and, it's all perfect. It has no desire to. It gets to that place of thy will be done through the letting go, often during suffering. And then ironically, when the new starts to come in, you don't really have a sense anymore that it belongs to you. It doesn't really belong to you anymore. Now it's just coming as grace. rather than, oh, I got my payoff. It's just grace.